Well, thank you for... Oh, that's very loud.
It's good.
Well, reverberations there today. Thank you for attending the meeting of the licensing panel on Wednesday, the 16th of October. I've got to read all this so everybody knows what's going on. Okay, everybody. And before we make a start, I want to run through some of the housekeeping rules. There are no planned fire alarms, so if it does, we have to leave by the emergency exits, which we go that way. It's like being on an aeroplane, there's a door at the end. Okay. And the toilets are on the left-hand side as you go through the door there. Can I ask you to turn off your mobile phones or put them on silent? Thank you. And this meeting is being live streamed on YouTube. So can I ask that all parties use the microphone when speaking? You'll see there's some instruction buttons. You press the speak button when you're speaking and you just turn it off when you stop speaking. Okay? And now I'll ask all parties to this hearing to introduce themselves. Now, I'm Councillor Jane Bell and I'm chairing the meeting.
Councillor James Gleeson.
Officer Stephanie Newby.
Do you want to come around this way?
I'm Sushma Nai, the solicitor in the legal team.
I'm Coral Asprey, I'm clerking for the committee today.
I'm Elizabeth Walsh, I'm the legal services team leader.
I'm Matthew Cropper, I'm one of the senior environmental health officers for South Ribble Borough Council.
Right, thank you. Have we got the applicants here as well? Are you're the applicants? Can you introduce yourself? Oh, right, okay. Is the loop system on? Just a minute. Oh, you haven't got a hearing aid. Okay, can everybody in that case speak a little bit slower and a little bit clearer? Would that, yeah, slower, clearer, and do make sure your microphone is on. Okay, everybody. Please indicate if you can't hear anything. Just put your hand up and then we can repeat it. All right. Okay, so can you introduce yourselves, please? It's all right.
Co-owner of the Lemon Tree, and this is my husband, Anthony Brocklebank.
Right, thank you. And
I'm Stephen Richards and I live next door to the Lemon Tree.
right,
I'm Stuart Richards and I'm here to support my brother.
thank you. That's everybody, is it? Yeah. And the other people in the room are from the licensing team. Okay, other people in the room. Yep, everybody. Steph, have you introduced yourself? Yeah. Right. So that's who we all are. And I don't know why we're here on such a wet afternoon. It'd be much better to be at home, but never mind. Now then, the whole procedures now. Our licensing officer will outline the application and any relevant representations. And then there are questions to the licensing officer for clarification, which will be permitted from the committee members and the applicant. Okay? The applicant, which is the Lemon Tree, will then be invited to make representations in support of their application. And then there are questions to the applicant from ourselves and from responsible authorities and any other parties. I have been advised that the licensing authority have withdrawn their objection and agreed conditions with the applicant, which can be found in Supplementary 2. We will not hear from the licensing authority today. Environmental Health will also be invited to make representations as a responsible authority. Questions to the responsible authority will be permitted from the subcommittee, applicant and responsible authority and other parties. The objectors will then be invited to make their representation. Questions to the objectors will be permitted. And then I will ask the applicant, in the light of the representations, if they wish to amend the application. We will only consider the application laid before us during the decision making. The objector will be invited to sum up. The applicant will be given the opportunity to sum up, and I will ask the licensing authority legal representative whether there are any other matters to be raised and resolved before the hearing is closed for deliberation. All parties and officers are not directly supporting the committee will be excluded from the meeting at this point as we enter our deliberations. All the parties will be issued with a detailed notice of decision within 5 working days after the hearing. If you are not satisfied with the decision, you have the right to appeal to the Magistrates' Court within 21 days. Now, I know that sounds forever, but don't worry about it. We've done it before, and if I do it wrong, somebody nudges me and say, you missed that bit out. So don't worry about it. Okay. Just the way it proceeds. basically somebody says something and everybody can then ask them questions. Simple. Right. Have we got any apologies?
Yes, Chair. We've had apologies from Councillor John Rainsbury.
Thank you. Have you got any interest to declare? This applies to us.
No.
No, we've no interest to declare. Okay, thank you. Right. A copy of the procedures followed, which was included in the agenda pack for information, and we've already outlined all that. Right, please can I ask our licensing officer, Stephanie Newby, to briefly outline the application.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. The application before you today is for a full variation of the premises licence for the Lemon Tree in Longton and is made under Section 34 of the Licensing Act. The applicants, Susan Morton and Tony Brocklebank, seek permission to increase their operational hours and add licensable activities to their existing premises licence. The premises has currently been licensed for around 3 years, and their current permissions can be found attached to the reporter's background document 2. Within the original application, Ms Morton and Mr Brocklebank have asked for the following to be varied on their licence. The supply of alcohol and opening times to be extended on a Sunday to Thursday from 8 a.m. till 11 p.m. in the evening, and on Fridays and Saturdays 8 a.m. till midnight. They also wish to add live and recorded music for both indoor and outdoors, and along with these timings, they have asked for an existing condition attached to their licence for the use of the outdoor area to be used until 10 p.m. in the evening instead of 8 p.m. in the evening. And again, the full application can be found attached to the reporter's background document 1. The representations received during the consultation period, we had objections received from 2 of the responsible authorities, the Licensing Authority and our Environmental Health Department. The Licensing Authority raised objections over public nuisance and had concerns around the increase of operational hours, whereas the Environmental Health Department objected to the noise impact this would have on the adjoining property. An objection was also received from a member of the public. They have concerns about the impact it could have on them, and the full objection can be found attached as background document 6. In support of the application, the council received a total of 26 emails from members of the public in favour for the application. Supporters praised the establishment for its family-friendly atmosphere and high standards, and supporters believe that the extension of hours would benefit the local community and have a positive impact on the local economy. During the mediation process, the Licensing Authority and the applicant agreed some conditions. These conditions meant that the Licensing Authority have now withdrawn the representation, and all agreed conditions can be found attached as supplementary 2. So in closing, the licensing panel are now asked to determine the application under Section 35 of the Licensing Act 2003, taking into account any legislation and guidance set out within the body of the report. And your options available to the committee are to grant the variation to the licence as set out in the application, to modify the conditions of the licence, or reject the whole or part of the application. The decision will then be confirmed in writing within 5 working days of the hearing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Right, have you got any questions, James? No. I haven't got any questions. Applicant, have you got any questions? To Steph, have you got any questions? Sorry, that was my fault, not speaking clearly. Anybody else have any questions to? No, that's perfectly clear. Good. Okay, fine. Lovely. Right. Can I ask the applicant now to outline their application?
Okay. Tony and I opened the Lemon Tree over 3.5 years ago and are really proud of the reputation we have developed in this time. The Lemon Tree is seen as a warm, friendly and welcoming venue. So why do we want this extension? Firstly, we want to build on the fact that our coffee bar is a community asset. Increasing our hours will help us offer a better evening food service to customers. We serve pre-booked platters and tapas as well as a Smokies menu of an evening, but would like to expand this, but need increased hours to do so. This would allow us to employ some more local staff. Secondly, we apply for TENS for one-off events and have already used our allocation for this year. As an example, we showed the Euros and our customers were big fans. Rather than going to a rowdy pub, it could be viewed as if you were around a friend's house. Families could bring children in because they were barred from most of the local venues. We also have occasional ticket events such as guided wine tasting evenings or gin tasting. The Lemon Tree has a series of thriving clubs in the evenings, art, craft, ukulele, for example. Increasing our opening hours during the week will allow a wider group of people to access these activities as we can start and finish later. We are also asking to be treated equally as the neighbouring licensed establishments. All have outside hours and opening hours much later than us, even if our variation is approved. We will not be adding to any noise after 11 o'clock at night. The Red Line next door to us has outside seating till 11. This includes the area behind our shared drive, and their customers do not have to leave the premises till 2 a.m. on a Friday and a Saturday. Also, diagonally opposite us, Wilkins and Pye have no restrictions on outside seating and have residential houses to the rear and can remain open till 12:30 at the weekend and 11:30 during the week. We feel the proposed operating times are very reasonable when considering the other two licensed premises in proximity. We are proud that in our village there was nowhere else like the Lemon Tree Cafe, where families and customers of all ages, from teenagers to octogenarians, can meet up for a drink, be it coffee or alcohol, until we close, have a cake or an ice cream. We regularly have people in an evening who just come in for a coffee and to read the paper. We don't have loud music playing, we have background music. There'll be no music after 11. And we will be respecting the night hours legislation and will keep all noise within permitted noise levels as laid down in government guidance. Comments from the 26 emails of support reiterate that we're family friendly, welcoming and generally a nice place to be. One even says it's the only place they can bring their autistic child as it is calm. The supporting emails also comments from neighbours in the immediate vicinity who comment that they'd never had case to comment on excessive noise. Customers say we have a relaxed holiday vibe at the Lemon Tree Cafe. We feel we've worked well with licensing to agree a compromise we can work with. Tony and I have addressed environmental concerns with solid solutions. We've also approached the public objection with empathy. We feel that his raised concerns have been addressed with workable solutions aided by licensing officers, and some of his concerns are based on fear and speculation rather than evidence. We've endeavoured to be proactive to try and negotiate and reduce any perceived negative impacts. We have taken advice from both licensing, environmental health and our local councillor, Will King. Approving this variation to our licence would bring us in line with neighbouring licensing establishment, allow us to keep developing our business and ensure that the jobs of the 15 people who work for us are secure. It is not anticipated that the Lemon Tree would be open till 11 every night. It's been requested to enable flexibility. These are difficult times for the hospitality industry, and we'd ask you to consider allowing the variation to be approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Have you got any questions, James?
No, that was all clear, thank you.
Yeah, perfectly clear. Any questions? Any questions, environment? Yeah,
Microphone.
put your microphone on.
Sorry, I beg your pardon. First of all, you mentioned noise levels in government guidance. What are those exactly that you're talking about? Because yeah.
And states the permitted noise level reaching A-rated decibels. The unit environmental noise is usually measured in is, and it goes 34 dBA decibels, which is big. If we allow mute level noise is more than 24 dBA and 10 dBA for the underlying level of noise.
Yeah. But the problem with that is that's the noise is measured at your nearest property, so it wouldn't be the levels inside yours. That's the difficulty. The only way, the noise levels are measured inside the nearest property, not at the establishment. So it'd be quite difficult for you to do unless you had noise equipment in your neighbour's property, and that's how we force it. But the guidelines don't apply to your establishment. They apply to the noise levels at your nearest neighbour.
It's a soundproof wall, so
the noise the other side of the wall surely is going to be less.
You won't be able to get the, in a 34 decibels.
Maybe I don't understand what it's you're saying.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Like just from a technical point of view, that's not correct. Like you couldn't realistically have a sound level of 34 decibels in a bar.
I suppose what I'm trying
That's like a very quiet room.
what I'm trying to say is that with
Yeah.
I've tried to do some research. Obviously, I'm not an
Yeah.
acoustic engineer. We have, I think, in one of my emails to you, we have offered to put in a cutout or a decibel thing if it gets too loud, which I haven't had a response to.
See, the difficulty is that to set sound levels, you would need a robust acoustic assessment to work out what those levels need to be, so that it's appropriate levels in the neighbouring property. So ultimately, the up and down of it is really that it's like guesswork unless you have a noise assessment done. Like that's the only way that you can realistically do it, because otherwise the sort of things you've suggested wouldn't be effective. It would be guesswork.
I don't understand that. I have a difficulty in understanding, because you want us to assess what all noise is like in our next door neighbour, and we don't have access to our next door neighbour's property.
No, but what you would need to do is get like I've said in the consultation document is to employ a qualified acoustician to do a sound assessment to work out whether the levels of insulation are sufficient, and whether there needs to be other things put in place like sound limiters, and what they would need to be set to. Because at the moment it's just guesswork. And I would say, in my experience from dealing with 15 years of dealing with noise nuisance matters, that it's unlikely that cladding would be sufficient.
Yes. All right.
Presumably there is a noise level that we need to stay within next door.
Is there actually a question?
No, I mean, just ask,
directed. It's just
you send an acoustic engineer and he measures the levels. There must be a point at which you say, no, that's too loud.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Is what they would do is they would assess whether there's likely to be whether it's likely to cause a nuisance, the activity that you do,
right,
and what mitigation would need to be in place to prevent it from being a public nuisance.
I'm just going to stop this here, because not because you're doing anything wrong, but you can do this later on when you're doing your because it's not really a question, but it needs clarifying. But we can do that later on. Okay, everybody. I'm not being nasty. I'm just saying, let's try and keep within the rules. Not that I ever keep within the rules, but beside the point. Okay. Has anybody else got any more questions? Have you got questions? Yes.
Just
for the applicant.
One for clarification. I know you've addressed some things in the amendments about the front seating, but you don't mention anything about the seating in the rear. It's not shown on the photographs. So just wondered what the plan is with that seating in the rear of the property. So is that staying as it is? Is the intention is to leave that as that is? Yeah, but I presume it's going to stay there to be used. You're not removing it or anything like that. The intention is to leave that rear seating in the rear at the back there. So the clarification is the restrictions that are mentioned in the restriction, the amendment. Does that apply to the rear seating area as well?
Through you, Chair. No, it's not been incorporated within the body of this report. There's no mention of that within the report. No. So any agreed or proposed conditions put forth today would not be included for that.
Is that allowed as it stands? Is that something
we would have to look at that on another basis?
On a separate basis?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, that would have to be separate. Yeah. Okay. Have we got anything else you'd like to ask? You got anything else you want to ask?
No, I don't think so.
Right. Okay. Right. Fine. If you think of anything later on, I'm quite lenient, because suddenly it comes to you, doesn't it? So yeah. So anybody else got any questions for the applicant? No, you okay? Quite clear? Everybody's happy? Good. Now, can I invite the responsible authorities to forward environmental help? Now, this is your chance to, Don't worry about it. He can't hear you.
Right. Okay.
It might be if you lift, if you lift your, that's it.
Yeah, get a bit
Yeah.
closer.
Is that better?
Yeah. So just to sort of outline why I'm objecting. I've got quite a lot of experience dealing with noise control sort of issues, and it's very likely that if you put a bar attached to a residential property, especially old ones, there's unlikely to be sufficient sound attenuation to prevent it from causing a significant impact on the person next door. Now, if you then extend the hours, that impacts on people more. And in my view, the only way to deal with this and to allow this extension without it seriously impacting the person who lives in the attached property is to get a qualified acoustician to do a robust noise impact assessment and specify measures that need to be in place to prevent it from causing a public nuisance. And that is like typically what we ask for. I mean, I don't know what the situation is with planning, but that is like a standard condition if you were to convert from to say a drinking establishment from something else where the properties are attached. And I think that's the only way that you can safeguard the sort of the neighbouring property. I know they've mentioned that they've got some acoustic cladding. In my experience, it just doesn't work. The only way that you can adequately sound insulate things is by having a degree of mechanical isolation. So the actual insulation needs to be separate from the party wall. It is. Have you had a set?
All around.
Yeah.
Stage within a
As for
I
all
mean,
the
it might be that
photographs,
it might be that you don't need any additional insulation, but unless you've had that assessment done, there's no ways of being able to.
which I've sent you.
I've not got any photographs.
Oh, well, we have sent
Sent them
them
all.
through.
Well, you sent it to licensing.
Yeah.
Well, look,
I sent them to you on an email dated 2 weeks ago.
You can
get
clearly
them.
see the gap all around, roof and ceiling.
I've not got it, but
Have a look.
the
Just a minute. Have we got? We've got.
have you got an acoustic?
Yeah, we've got some photographs. That's it.
Through you, Chair, there is 2 supplementaries included within the body of the report, and the photographs can be found in there.
Through you, Chair, is it okay if I just do some clarification? So we need to let the responsible authority finish his representations and then questions can be asked. Is that okay?
So I mean, I can see from the pictures there's been some stud work put up, but it would just depend whether who did the assessment to determine how big the gap needs to be and the materials involved. Without that assessment, I mean, I couldn't say whether it would work or not. Yeah.
Sorry, through you, Chair, is it okay if I ask something? Do you need more time? Do you need time to look at those photographs before you continue? Do we need to ask for an adjournment for 5 minutes while you look at the photographs?
I don't think so. I just think they need to submit more information with the noise assessment that was done, because unless you've got a qualified person who's assessed the noise reduction, we won't know whether it's effective or not.
Can I just be completely amateur about environment and noise and whatnot? Have you ever had a noise assessment done at all? So very quickly, who advised you on the soundproofing that you put in then? How did that come about?
Say search on the internet.
So-
For
Right.
the correct materials. This was all, can I say, in the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
We started the build when we were all in restrictions. So the build started, I think, in the 2020.
So the information and what you needed to do all came off the internet. It wasn't a little man coming in and say, oh, you need 6 inches of this or whatever.
Little men weren't allowed.
No, little men weren't allowed it. But so that, and was it inspected? Was it inspected after you did it?
There was no requirement to
And there was no requirement to have it inspected?
for
Right.
any of the licenses we've applied for, or there was no need for planning, so we've
Right,
never
yeah.
had to.
Yeah.
Never been asked
Yeah.
to because
Fine.
there was no requirement to.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify where you got that information, who had put it in and whatnot. Yeah,
Finish, I think, but to my mind, that's the sort of mitigation that they would want to put in afterwards, after the assessment. You know, if they were going to insist on having some work doing, that's basically what they're going to ask for.
I mean, it's impossible for me to say whether this is sufficient without a noise assessment. Like, I mean, it's the same before. You do. It does look like there is like an internal. All I can see, there's been an internal stud work being built, but I don't know whether that would be sufficient acoustic insulation to mitigate the use of the.
It's not fast
of that
enough for the wall
property.
ceiling in any place, so there's no direct connection through to next door's wall.
Yeah, but I mean, the only thing that's really stops sound is mechanical isolation and solid mass, and I don't know how much solid mass. You'd have to do a noise impact assessment, which you need an acoustician to do. I mean, that's just my sort of professional sort of experience and knowledge. I mean, all I can say is we don't know, really.
can I just ask the people who live next door, have you ever had a noise assessment done in your property from what was happening next door? Sorry.
No, so the only sort of thing we could say about that, we've not had a noise assessment, but we can have noise, so you can hear barrels being changed, you can hear music from the cleaner, which we're going to mention.
That's all.
Yes.
I was just going to say the questions to be.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get this clarified here, really. Yeah. Any more questions to our environmental officer? Yeah.
Point. You're referring to us as a late night drinking establishment. We are a cafe and a bar. We're not wholly drinking establishment, please. Okay.
And just to be clear, I absolutely don't have any issue with anything else, and I agree that it's a lovely place and a good atmosphere. I don't want you to think I'm totally disagreeing with any of that. I think it's all these are all good things. It's just that from my sort of like a professional standpoint, really, where you've got a drinking establishment like a cafe bar like yours, really there should be an assessment of noise transmission. Whereas this I think this has been done without that assessment doing at first, and it's fairly open to interpretation whether it might work. But if they can hear it, if the neighbour can hear it in their property, then I'd suggest it possibly hasn't.
Turn yourself on. We've run till 10:30 at night for the last 2 years, or perhaps a bit more, on a Thursday and Friday and Saturday night. Have you had a single noise complaint about us in that time?
The last time we had a noise complaint was I think it was 2.5 years ago, and it was in regards to a temporary event notice that you did, like something that was done on one of those.
Okay.
Since then, I mean, the way that I dealt at the time was sort of said, well, look, it's a it's kind of a one-off, isn't it? With tens, you only get so many, and there's only so much we can do really.
Yeah.
With that, I mean, sometimes if you live next door to a cafe bar, you will occasionally hear things, especially if they're doing one-off type things. And so I basically sort of left it for them to come back if it was a problem like later down the line. But since then I've not heard anything from.
Since
then we've not had any.
That was several years ago.
Sorry?
2.5 years ago.
2.
Yeah. Okay. So I'd just like to make the point, I think we proved that we can open responsibly till 10:30 at night, and I don't think 11 o'clock is such a stretch. I mean, but anyway.
Yeah, I think there's obviously sort of things for the sort of neighbour to sort of say how it's affecting them. How it's affecting them really, rather than.
So okay, let's move on. I think we've got an issue around noise. I think we can all admit to that one. And now it's for the objectors to put their case.
Sorry, through you.
Sorry.
Let's just ask a question of
Yeah.
Matthew. At what point would the environmental health team get involved within this matter? You know, in terms of an assessment, noise assessment being carried out. At what point? Considering the complaints wise, it's the last one was sort of 2.5 years ago. So what point would it trigger the process for yourselves to?
Well, typically, if we get a noise complaint about something that's a one-off sort of noise, we would typically advise people that our powers under the Environmental Protection Act to investigate noise nuisances weren't really designed for one-off sort of issues. It was more like ongoing things where there's been an ongoing material interference in the use of someone's property because of noise. So it's something like that, because it was related to a 10. I said it's unlikely to be able to do anything. However, obviously things have sort of moved on, and it is obviously becoming quite a lot later and less cafe, more towards bar. Obviously, it's both now. It certainly advertises as such.
It was all bar when we started under COVID, virtually.
Yeah.
Nobody was interested in it.
Oh, I see what you mean, but only because of those difficulties. It certainly wasn't, when planning permission was granted for it, it was granted as cafe restaurant, wasn't it? Rather than as a drinking establishment. And certainly, like, if you look at so when I saw this application, I remembered having a noise complaint a long time before. Like I said, 2.5 years ago. So I looked on the socials to try and work out what sort of establishment it was. And if you look on their Facebook thing, there's obviously lots of things like about cocktails and music and things like that. And it does seem like to me that, you know, you could reasonably say from the impression that's given that it has a significant use as a nighttime drinking establishment. Or that's what the impression it's given, and why I was concerned and wanted to make representations.
I think if you actually look through our social media, there are cocktails and drinks because we are licensed, and it does say when we have beer and when we have different beer, but we also say when we have a special jacket potato, or when coming for a coffee and we have pictures of our croissants.
Okay,
let's try to bear it.
I mean, I'm not saying that you're not a cafe, I'm saying that you're a bar as well.
Okay. Let's move on. Have you got another question?
Hi, I've just got one question for you, Matthew. Can you just clarify that you've not had any noise complaints since 2.5 years ago? Is that correct? Oh. It's just so it's clarified that Environmental Health have not had any noise complaints at all. That Environmental Health have had to investigate.
No.
Since 2.5 years ago, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're now on to the object. Oh gosh, here we go again. We're now on to the objectors, so it's your chance to put your two.
I'm going to go through the statement, and perhaps Stephen will add some additional information if I've missed anything. So. First of all, obviously, we're objecting on the basis of public nuisance, being living in the adjoining property. We've already experienced some disruption to Stephen's life. We're not objecting about the property, the way it's been run as a bar. It's very popular. And I would like to say we do appreciate the attempt that's been made with the additional amendments that were made, so we appreciate the effort to try and resolve those, but we still feel, because the adjacency to the property, it is still causing a nuisance. The first one, just want to address as well with the complaints from Friday and Saturday, they extended. Stephen no longer stays in the property on a Friday and Saturday evening. He had an opportunity to stay somewhere else, so he's not living in the property for that reason. That it's just too awkward to be in the property.
Can I just clarify? Is that every Saturday?
Every Friday.
Every Friday, and
yes, he doesn't stay in the property.
Right.
So the objection is based on noise. Obviously, we talk about outside, but if I talk about the noise inside, as I mentioned before, we're aware that some soundproofing was put in place, which is great. Appreciate the effort, but can still hear things now. So as I mentioned, we can hear barrels being changed, and you can hear music. If the cleaner's got the music on, you can hear it. So we're looking then if this is going to be extended into the evening, and it's going to be music if the inside is full, then the volume of the music is going to go up. If you've got live music, the volume of the music goes up. As an example, during Longton Live, obviously that's a special event, which, you know, we don't want to stop special events like that, which are good for the area, but it just illustrates of how much noise can be generated if you're only feet away. So it is an adjoining terrace. The front window is only a couple of feet from the boundary, so that already causes a noise. If you imagine just outside, if there's 50 people outside talking, even in early evening, that generates a volume, which means you can't open windows at the front of the property because it's just normal chatter. It's not people being rowdy. Wouldn't say people are rowdy. It's just that number of people generate a lot of noise. So obviously that becomes an issue. There's also the intrusion of, and I will say it is mentioned in there, being offered to build a larger fence. At the moment, it's quite a low fence. That wouldn't have an effect on noise as such. It would help from the intrusion because obviously just going to the front door when you've got 50 people looking over your fence as you go into your front door, it can feel quite intimidating doing that. Building the fence would address that, but it would effectively create the front garden to be a prison yard and block light to that first window, which is why it never really agreed to having that built to this point, because obviously that's going to have other effects on the property. The other thing on the noise is there is a security system fitted on the house. It has voice activation on the noise activation on the front. That's actually been turned off because just with the general chatter, it activates that noise activation on the front of the house. So it'll start recording just on normal chatter. The other thing, obviously, with the time of restricting the outside, that is an improvement. We appreciate that. So if people are not outside beyond 8 o'clock during the week and 9 o'clock in the weekend, that's an improvement. But obviously, then you still have smokers coming outside, and it would, you know, typically in a smoking area, people congregate. So how would that be policed? We'd be very concerned about bringing people in to make sure they do come in. You know, all the time. So making sure that's being policed all the time. At the moment, you know, what extra staff, or if you like, things are going to be put in place to actually do police the restrictions that are in place. Also, that really deals with the noise. We've talked about it a lot. So it's inside and outside. Just particularly raised the rear seating area, because obviously for people to get there, they have to walk through the public access, which is down the side of the building. So they're walking through there, and that's where you actually drive to get into the back of the property. Also in the rear, you have to effectively do a 3-point turn, so you drive front ways out because it's not safe to reverse onto Liverpool Road. And obviously reversing them with people walking with glasses, with you know, they obviously had a drink later on, they're more likely to have more drinks, so they're likely to get a little bit louder. So it's a concern there about manoeuvring the cars in the back, could be a health and safety issue. And you know, just as a general statement to the end, we're concerned about, obviously opened as a cafe, but it's extended for extended hours, and it is a cafe bar. That's what it is. It's a bar that serves food. Probably more in the day, it's more of a cafe with a drinks license. At night, it's more of a bar that serves food, which is common these days. That's what this is what people are going for. But obviously the extended hours, there's more consumption of alcohol, people will get a little bit more rowdy. So leaving at night, again, it's different. We mentioned the Red Lion, which is up there. That is a distance away. But if it's right under your bedroom window, that's a little bit of a different concern. So there's a concern then that you know what comes next with extra extensions. extending hours, more special events, when will it stop in terms of how the property is going to get used? Have I missed anything?
No, I think that's about
You sure? Yeah. Okay. No, that's it.
Anybody else got any questions? Like,
Thank you, Chair. Can I just, for some clarification, just confirm the reason why you don't stay there on a Friday and a Saturday evening at your property?
Yeah, it just it was the front garden and what have you. Coming home, it was just like there was too many people and it was a noise. It was just worrying me so much. It's, you know, I just stopped staying there Friday and Saturday. People were just looking through the window all the time.
Through you, Chair, could I ask a question?
Yeah.
So in the past sort of 2.5 years, was there a reason that a complaint has not been made in relation to
Pardon?
in relation to noise? So was in terms of
I just give up in the end.
right, okay. So was in terms of the complaints that you have made
I
complaints?
complained about, I think, was it 2.5 years ago?
Oh,
Yeah,
right, okay.
about
Then
2.5
been-
years, and
okay.
it was just the front thing. I was going out to water my baskets and what have you, and people said I just couldn't take it anymore.
Just to clarify that, thank
Yeah.
you.
Can I say how uncomfortable it would be to be, you know, lots of people watching you coming and going and doing stuff. Did you feel threatened at any time?
It's a difficult one, you know. I'm quite happy to, well, Tony and what have you out, but it just got too much.
Thank you.
through you, just one quick question, if I may, through you, Chair. Have you looked at the amended conditions that licensing have agreed? Have you looked at those supplementary report that's been sent? So there's some amended conditions in there.
Yeah, I think the amending conditions are going to help. I'm quite happy about that. I'm quite happy to speak to Tony and what have you and see where we can go from here.
Thank you.
I just want to mention for people who aren't familiar necessarily with how we investigate noise complaints in environmental health is that it is quite a drawn out process. And you do actually have to be for us to investigate it properly, you have to be in the property and keeping logs of when it's happening, how it's affecting you. So it's got to continue to affect you. So if Steve had complained to us, we'd say, well, if you're not in the property being affected by it, it would quite be almost impossible to investigate. So because that is the sort of one of the cornerstone of investigations is the actual is the complainant being able to keep all these logs. I mean, we can go and witness it, but obviously we can't be there all the time to show the continuity of the issue and that sort of thing. So I mean, that may be, because obviously we've got all this information on our website of how we do things. That may be, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but that may be what's put him off complaining to us again, unfortunately. So I just thought I'd mention that, and it's part of the reason why we do try to use like licensing and planning to head these issues off rather than people to have to suffer from them while we investigate them. So.
More of a response to that, really. Can I just explain the two complaints that we have had? The first was when we were building the property. It was about noise to upstairs, which we now have anyway. Environmental health was straight round, literally straight round. Nick Sheridan came around within 24 hours and we resolved it and it was fine. It was all sorted out. There was pre-instant response. The second one was actually as a result of Steve's submission, where he mentioned a problem with the drains. And again, environmental health was straight round. And again, it was found there was no problem. My point is, it just seems so odd if they've had noise complaints that we've not heard anything. based on the response when they have had complaints. That's that's just my opinion. But anyway,
I mean, it might be that depending on what the complaint is, what the response is as well. So a noise complaint would be different from drains, for instance, and there would be a different issue there, I think.
Yeah,
from what you were saying.
And so we tend not to sort of like contact people if there's nothing we can do about it. And generally speaking, with a 10, there wouldn't have been anything we could do about that. So that would have been our advice at the time regarding that. So that's why we wouldn't have contacted you.
I expect you to take seriously a complaint at noise at 10 o'clock at night on Longton Live, I suppose. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I just one comment. I think you were mentioning about the noise assessment and you deemed access to the property. It was just we were just talking there that if that was something that was required, there'd be no problem with getting access to the property for any sort of assessment like that. So.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, carry on.
I know you say that you don't stay in the property. I know you stay most times at your girlfriend's, and I know there are different reasons why. Either you're saying it's the noise of our place, I'm saying it's more to do with the relationship. But you do have net curtains, and you do have quite a lot of privacy on your windows anyway, and I don't think I've ever seen your curtains shut. So I know that's your personal preference, but I just wanted to point that out, if that's okay.
Can I just be clear? So in the time since the bar's been there's been no noise complaints or any complaints other than about anything actually in 2.5 years. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to clarify. That was all.
Sorry, one quick. Is it okay if I just do another clarification with the
Excuse me. The reason there was no complaints, I gave up on complaining.
That's what I wanted to just clarify. That situation about the complaint. You do know the process and you understand what you can do, but you just decided not to go forward with it. Is that correct? So you did one complaint, which was the 10s, and then after that, you just didn't want to pursue it, or you just gave up. Is that correct? Okay, but you know the procedure of what you can do.
Yeah. But I just felt like I'd have been complaining. That's not me. I just want to get on with my life.
Okay, thank you.
Just wanted to add to that as well. Obviously, you mentioned about staying with the girlfriend. He had that opportunity to go and stay with his girlfriend, so it meant he had a way of removing himself, so he didn't have to complain. He could remove himself.
No, that's fine. I just want to make sure that he does know that the way to complain and how it would get recorded and what environmental health would do if that complaint was recorded. Thank you.
Okay, everybody finished asking questions? Everybody clear? Now's your opportunity. Okay, fine. I have got a note on here to say to the applicant, would, in the light of everything that's been said, would you like to amend your application? But we've already done the bit with it, so we don't need to do that because you've already done it with licensing, haven't we?
Through you, Chair, if there's further amendments that need to be made, that can be brought up today.
I'd say no, but if somebody thinks there's a simple compromise that can be made, we'd certainly consider it. Yeah.
Can I? Now, my next thing on my thing is, have you got anything else to say? Because this is your time to sum up if you want to, or have you said everything?
No, I think it's. I
think you've more or less said it. Yeah. And what about the applicant now? Have you got anything else you would like to say to sum up?
Just a barrel change, but most might be once a day.
Yeah. I don't know. I've made a few notes here, but I think we're just into nitty gritty, I suppose, if we carry on.
Are you sure?
I'd just like to say that, we've tried to make amendment. There's no smoking in half now. We've moved the tables 2 meters away from his window, half of the outside area. Well, if this is approved, we'll do.
Yeah.
If this is approved, half of it will be no smoking. So I think that will alleviate a lot of the concerns.
Okay, thank you. Now this is where I go against the rules and say, are you sure that's it? You don't want to say anything else? You know, I always do this, don't I? I always go against the rule book, because sometimes something comes up and you just think, oh, I need to say that. Yeah, and everybody else, environment, you're happy with everything now that we've said and what everybody else is saying? Fine. Legal, have you got anything you want?
Through you, Chair, you might want to just check with licensing about the conditions that have been agreed.
Yeah.
Can I just confirm that it just says outside? So are we talking? Can we ask the applicant if that extends to the out? Would you be agreeable to the extension at the back as well?
Yeah. Shall we read the conditions, the changes out? I'll Steph to read them. Yes. Sorry.
Through you, Chair.
Yeah.
I can't make that
No, you can't.
suggestion
No, you can't.
today. I can't agree
No,
to here.
no.
I'm not the licensing authority who put the objection in and has agreed the conditions.
Yeah.
That's the licensing manager, Chris.
Yeah.
Who has his hand
Yeah.
up.
Sorry.
Chris. Yeah. Right. Here we are. This is Chris.
Right. So
That's voice of authority now, Chris.
Through my objection, the rear area doesn't form part of the licence whatsoever, so that's being utilised without any permissions through the licence, to be honest. It hasn't been addressed as part of the application, so it was never addressed as part of my objection. The objection is around the seating area that's been submitted on plans. There's never been any submitted plans for the rear area. That's why it was never addressed. It isn't the fact that we haven't addressed it as part of our objection. It's never been submitted to the licensing authority as part of the premises. So basically it's being utilised outside of the remit of the licence at the minute. Thank you.
Thanks for the clarification.
In writing, can we, I know you've changed some of your ideas and we've got some recommendations. Can you read the recommendations out for the change of hours so that the objectors know? Thanks.
Yeah, I can do that for you. The agreed conditions between, Okay. So the applicant has agreed to reduce the timings to 11 o'clock for regulated entertainment, which is music. As this is not licensable before 11 o'clock in the evening, it can be removed completely from the application. The external seating area, which when we refer to that is at the front of the property, which you'll find a copy of the plan in supplementary 2 for that. That seating area now has to be cleared by 9 o'clock on a Friday and a Saturday and 8 o'clock Sunday to Thursday. And then whenever the external area is open, there will be adequate number of staff present on site to monitor and regulate the behaviour of patrons within the external area. And again, when we refer to that external area, we're referring to the front of the premises only, not the seating area at the back. After 8 p.m. each evening, a noise assessment will be carried out outside, half hourly, and that's by a designated member of staff to ensure there's no risk of noise nuisance. We also ask for a written record of the noise assessments to be kept on site, which we would request when we went out to do a premises licence and inspection to make sure that those noise assessments were being carried out. They would also need to include a record of any remedial action taken by the designated member of staff if there were any complaints. A plan of the outdoor area to the front of the premises has been submitted to the licensing authority, but again, that's the area to the front only of the lemon tree, nothing in relation to the back area for seating. The outside area to the front of the premises will be restricted to a capacity of 52 customers. So again, that doesn't include the area at the back of the premises. There will be no external seating positioned within 2 metres of the front window of the neighbouring domestic property, and any external seating within 2 metres of the boundary of the external seating area will be strictly no smoking. Thank you, Chair.
The revised conditions, which are perhaps a bit more. I'm trying to think of the word.
I think
conducive.
We, as I said at the start, we appreciate the efforts that have been made to restrict that, but obviously, and it would say it's not a rowdy establishment.
No,
it isn't. but it's obviously, it's just how close it is to the property
Yeah.
and the just normal noise that we're objecting to.
Right, thank you. Right, if nobody else has any, do you want to say anything, legals? No, you're happy? Anybody else want to say anything? Again, this is when I'm breaking the rules.
Going to break the rules.
Yeah, breaking the rules.
We suggest a compromise on the rear area. I know it's not part of.
Yeah.
I hadn't realised, but take the points about it not being part of the licence. Be happy to say that that's just a daytime overflow area for food and drink, and that we close it at 6 o'clock.
Close it at 6.
We're happy with that.
Right, fine. Thank you. Thank you. Right. No other matters arising? Anybody's Sushma? No, you're happy? Right, okay. Right. Now then, this is the bit where we deliberate. So I've got to ask people to leave. We will be deliberating, we will come to a decision, and you will get it in writing within 5 working days, what our decision is. And you also have the right to appeal within 21 to the magistrate if you're not happy with our decision. But thank you for coming. I hope you don't get wet going home. Hope it stopped raining. And you will hear from us soon. Okay, but thank you for coming. Thank you for your input.